The most important person in the whole wide world is you, and you hardly even know you. The most important person in the whole wide world is you. Come on, we'll show you. Let's find out more about the things you feel and do, 'cause you're the most important person in the world to you.
Hello, 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 and happy hump day. Welcome to One4ALLisLove with Sonya Spirit, and I am Sonya Spirit. And the title of this episode, today's episode, is Know Thyself, Who is I? Who is I? And yes, I am well aware that this is grammatically incorrect. So today in this episode, we are going to discuss, we are going to probe the letter I, the word I, and the power of I. Okay, so let's get started. All right. Let's see. Okay. Yes, let's get started. The letter I. Now, mind you, these things come to me. So I'm sharing what comes to me. So I'm supposed to share the letter I. Who is I? Who is I? Well, first, let's just go with the letter I. The letter I, the capital letter I, the lowercase letter I. And I don't know if you've had an opportunity to look at the graphic that accompanies this episode. I designed it myself. It's really simplistic. That's why I'm laughing. But if you look at the graphic, you will see a lowercase I and a very, it's gray. It's a very faint-looking capital I within the lowercase I. Okay. So the letter I, it is the 9th letter of the alphabet. And that is important. But we won't touch on why it's important, because it deals more with the number 9 than the letter I. But just know that the number 9 is a very special, of all the numbers, is one of the most special besides 0. Okay, it has its own frequency. Okay, but the letter I is the 9th letter in the alphabet, and trust me, there's no such thing as coincidence, so neither is that a coincidence. So you have the uppercase I, you have the lowercase I, and if you look at the construction of the lowercase I, it almost appears to be the number 1 with a small 0 on top. That was just one thought that came to mind when I looked at it, okay? So that's one interpretation, but that's not the one we're going to explore because that goes back to the numerology of it. But just looking at the representation of the lowercase I, what appears to be a 1 and a dot or a small 0 above the 1. Okay, so the lowercase I represents man. The uppercase I represents God. Okay, let's continue, because I know some people are like, what are we talking about? Okay, so in the lowercase I, which represents man, and when I say man, I'm talking about the spirit, the soul, okay, not the physical mankind being, okay, not the physical being. So, the lowercase I represents man, the spirit of man, the soul of man, the individuated soul. And of the construction of the lowercase I, the 1 would be the body. When I'm talking about the two pieces, the two components of the lowercase I, like I said, the number 1 and the small 0 or the dot above it. So the 1 is the body of man, the body of man. And the dot or the little 0 is actually the head of man. Okay, so we're looking at dealing with conscious, subconscious, once again. Conscious, subconscious, superconscious. Same thing we talked about last week. It's just a different perspective, but it's very important because the more you know about yourself, the easier it will become to make the necessary changes that you want to make, okay, that you want to make, because that's what's important. These are changes that you want to make, if you want to make any at all, okay? So like I said, back to the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. So the small dot, the I, the dot or the little zero over the one, that's our mind. Okay, the little one figure, that's our body. Okay, so we're looking at the conscious and the subconscious, so to speak. And in the graphic, you will see in the graphic that there is a capital I within the lowercase I, and it looks like it would be where our heart would be, okay? So that's going back to the subconscious, but remember the subconscious has communications, bidirectional communications with the superconscious. So remember that. So that's why for the graphic, God is in all of us, okay? Whether we know it or not, whether we accept it or not, or agree with it or not, that is the truth of it. If you breathe, and if people say, oh, how can you believe in something you can't see? You breathe air. You know you can't live without it. You don't see that. Okay? So unless it's cold, you can't see your breath. So let's get past that. So God is in all of us. And it's up to us individually to allow God to grow within us. See, here we go back to free choice, okay? Free will, choice. So the dot is the mind, the conscious. The one is the body, okay? The emotion, the subconscious, because I don't really want to call it the body because the body is just a physical container. But the one represents the subconscious because, of course, that's where the emotion, the heart emotion exists. And remember that emotional energy is how we attract what we are. Okay, remember, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. What signals are you sending out? This is why it's so utterly important for us to grasp this concept about energy, particularly our own personal energy, and the ability of being the authority over it, being able to control it. Because if we aren't, something else is. Okay, that's why you are under the impression that things might be happening to you when it's not happening to you, but through you. Okay. Now, the capital I, of course, represents God. And I know you're saying, how did she come to these conclusions? Where are these concepts coming from? Well, as you must know, it's coming out the sky. But, getting back to the uppercase I being God, there's actually, supporting evidence, I guess, if you want to call it that. I don't want to get into that type of term. But, so, the big I, it's in the Bible. We talked about it last week. We talked about Proverbs 46:10, be still and know that I am God. And we also talked about, Exodus 3:14, is it? I am. When Moses said, hey, what am I supposed to tell these people? Who sent me? And God said, tell them I am sent you. I am that I am. And that, listen, 5 words, so powerful. So powerful. Okay, think about this for a second. How do we identify ourselves in the first person? How do you identify yourself in the first person? How do I identify myself in the first person? The letter I, which is also a a word. Because when we are referring to ourselves in the first person, we are referring to ourselves. But we use the letter I. Where did that come from? Well, I don't have an answer to that. However, we can easily refer to the Bible. It's a text that's over, 2,000 years old? At the very least, okay? So let's not discount this. So God says, I am that I am. You tell them, I am sent you. So God is letting it be known. How can we identify God? I am. I am. And it's the same language we use when we are referencing ourselves in the first person. But let me tell you, these words are not innocuous. The word I wields great power. I am, and then there is a command. Whether you understand that concept or not, but that's basically what you're doing. Through the logos, the spoken word, or if it never gets verbalized, the thought concept. When we say I am, we are actually invoking the God in us, or the creative spirit in us, and what comes next is wielding the power of what we think we want to manifest, of what our intention to manifest. See, this is where the universe fails to have a sense of humor. It don't know when you joke. It doesn't know when you're not joking or when you are joking. So this is why self-improvement people who are into affirmations say you have to be cognizant of your language. You cannot use terminology such as I am broke, I am happy, I am sad. You don't want to identify your being, your essence, your creative energy with the things that we associated with. And this is why we have manifested the world that we have created. We don't recognize how powerful our language is, and the reason we don't recognize it is because of the time factor. Because we don't instantly manifest. Thank goodness. But that's another story. So when we use the word I, what we are doing or trying to do, or what we're actually doing, is aligning the consciousness. We are aligning the conscious, the subconscious, and the superconscious. It's almost like standing at attention. When we say I, that is what we're doing. Look at the letter I. It's just straight up and down. Now, if it's a different font, it might have legs and feet at the top and bottom. Otherwise, it's just a straight line. It looks like the number 1. It looks like a lowercase l. L, another word for God. We won't go there. So when we use the word I as the word I, as in reference to ourselves in the first person, ourself is not a simple being. Last week we spoke of the conscious, the subconscious, the superconscious, the mind, the emotions, and the body. We talked about different components of our being. And when we use the word I, what we're doing is aligning everything, the consciousnesses, if that's such a word, plural. We're aligning the consciousnesses And we are invoking that power. So it's like the genie in the bottle. Your wish is my command. I am happy. I am healthy. This is why people who, New Age Christians, people who are big into affirmations, this is important because it changes your energy. Now, and changing your energy, whether it's subtly or just instantly or abruptly or, forcefully, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It would be the opposite of subtle. But when we use the word I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought, forgive me. But when we use the word I, we need to understand what we are doing and the power that we are wielding, or the limitations we are imposing on ourselves. That's why we are not supposed to incorporate words that has a negative connotation. So I think it was last week, and I was like, for practice, because we don't really have homework, but you do want to practice different things because we do want to change. We want to change our life. This is what it's all about. You want to get to know yourself so you can live the best life that God has intended for you and me. Okay? Excuse me. So we pose limitations when we say, I don't, I can't, I'm not. We pose limitations on our power through our language, through our thoughts. Actions is like the physical body. That's just the end result. If the mind and the speech and the emotion, well, the mind and the emotion, the speech is the byproduct of the thought, or the end result of the thought. So know how powerful we are. Understand, the word I. It has no other adverb or linking verb. We don't say I is or I are. Is for singular, are is for plural. We say I am. Now, for people who are into words and their etymology, I find this utterly interesting, but I won't belabor it because not everyone's into the logos, the language. But there's a lot of power in not only words, but the sounds of the words and the energy of the letters. So while I was preparing for this podcast, the word I kept coming to mind, EYE. And of course, it's a homophone of the letter I, the word I. But it's so interesting because there is no coincidence. So, singularly, it's I. Now, of course, if we're referring to both of them, they are I's. And I's is not a word that's used anywhere else other than as a suffix, I-Z-E. So, okay, let me get back on track. I'm sorry, I'm digressing here. So, remember that the conscious is temporary. The conscious is only around for as long as the body is around. Okay, so as long as the body is alive, then the conscious is alive. When the body dies, the conscious goes with it. The subconscious is kind of like water vapor. It goes back up into the ether until its next iteration of incarnation. So the conscious gets discarded upon expiration of each incarnation, and the subconscious is permanent. Okay? Remember, the subconscious is our programming, our operating system. So when Sonya dies, her consciousness will die with it. However, my soul will reincarnate at the appropriate time and will become the base foundation of thinking and feeling for the next iteration of my physical existence. The letter, the word I. So Proverbs 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. You can read it, but unless you practice it, the words aren't really going to resonate through you, to you, or through you. It's an instruction. I know it's in a larger context of a verse, but it is an instruction. That phrase, that clause, excuse me, is an instruction. Whenever you feel overwhelmed, helpless, hopeless, discouraged, any emotion that appears to be opposite of what is godly, anything that is opposite of love, beauty, truth, faith, whenever you feel those type of adverse emotions, is the opportune time to be still. And it doesn't even have to be long. It just needs to be sincere. Be still. And it is most effective when you are in pain. Sorry, getting a little emotional here. But I know the power of this phrase. And I can't communicate it enough to you. The value, the power, the change that it can create inside of you, which of course, if it changes you on the inside, it will reflect on the outside. That's how it works. So when we are still, and the reason I said when we are overwhelmed, because by this time you are ready to unburden your mind or your shoulders or the load. So you're not worried about thoughts polluting your mind, because that's the very thing that you're trying to get away from. And of course, many of us, we talked about this too, many of us who don't know how to be still and connect with God. See, be still and know that I am. We back to the I am again, because this is what it's all about. Who is I? I is God. The God that is in you, and God is everything outside of you. Now, originally when I made the graphic, I started with a capital I and the lowercase I inside the bigger I, inside the capital I. But that doesn't really speak to the individual. I need the individual to understand the power that they house. Because God is in you, outside of you. God is everywhere, period. But you have to know that. There are people who know it. And know, when I say no, I'm not talking about being told something or, it being iterated to the point where you're programmed or conditioned, like fear. Okay? No, I mean know it. You have had what we call miracles. We call them miracles because we don't understand the power of God. And we don't understand that we also possess that same power. So when miracles or when things that we think are impossible, and nothing is impossible, we've had this conversation, nothing is impossible. Quantum physics tells you that potential exists in every situation. There is the potential, every potential outcome exists. When I mentioned this was last week or a couple of weeks ago when I said each and every cell is a hologram, and even we are holograms of the entire universe. We being individual people. So the whole is in the one. The all is in the one, and the one is in the all. So the big I is in the little I, me. And the little I, me, is in the big I. We're all connected. It's all connected. Okay, let's continue. I have some more pages than this, but anyway. Okay, let's continue. Oh, all right, so getting back to the letter I. The word inspire. Okay, so the word inspire, of course, begins with the letter I, like the word information, invoke, a lot of other words that I like that begins with the letter I. Period, in. It's interesting, out begins with the letter O, which of course looks like a zero. So like I said, the two magical numbers, or most magical numbers, because all of them, they all have energy. But 0 is unique and 9 is unique. And, of course, the O looks like a 0. But anyway, getting back to the word inspire. Inspire means, the word itself, inspire, means to breathe or blow into. And S-P-I-R-E, spire, is a long conical or cylindric shape which peaks or tapers to a point at the top. So castles have spires. That little small round part in the front that kind of is the tallest part of the castle, and it kind of points to like a triangle at the top. That is a spire. And a spire moves, it's an upwardly a round or circular motion. Okay? Inspire, when we inspire someone, it is from within. We move them from within, but we move them up. Being inspired is an upward movement and in consciousness, not physical. Okay, so it's an upward movement in consciousness. And when we are inspired, we are moving upwardly, and the spirit or the superconscious is connecting with our subconscious, and it is inspiring us to move, to act. Now, remember also, the superconscious can penetrate or influence the conscious, our conscious mind. And I know I've mentioned the Iliad because that's the one book well, not the whole book, but but that was the one story that I read a long time ago in school. But I could never get past that one scene or that part of the story in which the mortals went to the gods and asked them to basically get involved and influence this war and influence the mind of other mortals. help me win this war, help me win this battle. And of course, the spirits, depending on whose side they were on, that they would participate. So they would influence people, like the mortals would be asleep. Inception, please think Inception, the movie Inception. So but going back to the Iliad, they would go to sleep and they would, penetrate thoughts into their dreams, their minds, blah, blah, blah. And it's the same concept as like Inception, so that you plant the thought, so when the conscious awakens, it will believe that it is its original thought, okay, that it is an organic thought, when in actuality it is not. Okay, so I kept doing it again. I lost my train of thought. I think I need to take notes while I'm doing this, so I can stop losing my train of thought. But getting back to the spire. Okay, so the word inspire is upwardly mobile, and it's a connection in consciousness, but on an elevated level. And we have to, so when we are inspired, there is a connection, okay? There is an alignment, so to speak. There is an alignment because you have received a thought, a feeling, you have received some energy form that moves you. Inspiration moves you to do something. It moves you to act, whether, you're writing something or whatever it is, but it moves you to express yourself. And that's the point, okay? And we inspire each other. There is a higher self within us, the God, the I, the big I, within us that influence other people. Namaste. The divine in me acknowledges the divine in you. Okay? So we inspire each other. This is the beauty of God in us that we don't share enough of. And we really need to. Okay, so don't take my word for it. Let's start with that. A good place to start would be to meditate on the letter I, the word I, Exodus 3:14, Proverbs 46:10. Even the sound of I. Meditate, and if you can be still, allow yourself to feel the subtle energy change. Now, I say it's subtle because people have different sensitivity levels. It's not subtle to me. I can feel it. I can feel it now, which is why I'm having this moment again. Because this is a strong message. I'm doing the best I can trying to convey it. But if you don't, I use the word don't, it is important to grasp this concept of who is I and the power that the word wields. When we say I, when I say I think I'm talking about Sonya in the first person. But what I'm really doing is aligning Sonya's conscious and subconscious with God's superconscious. And not only am I aligning it, I am using these words, abracadabra, I create what I speak. I am using these words to manifest something. Now, whether it manifests right away or in another lifetime doesn't take away from its power. We have to change our perspective. We have to get out of this physical/mankind mentality. We are not this being. The body is designed for experience. And the experience is to help our soul grow. So the body, the physical body, is to benefit our soul growth, our psychology. Remember, psyche means soul. We think psychology is the study of human behavior or individual behavior. It's the study of the soul. And what do you know about the soul? What do you know about your soul? Okay. So I am a powerful being. I am an individuated spirit of God. I am expressed as a female gender. And I am more powerful than even I can comprehend. That much I do know. And I also know that the position that I am in, whether I like it or not, is something that I have imposed on myself either through this lifetime or a previous one. Or either I've surrendered all my energy and I'm being manipulated. And I'm not going with the latter. Okay, now, getting back to I. Learning how to express I. So we're all unique, whether we know it or not. Even if we are, even if you are, because I'm not one that I'm aware of, but even if you are, identical twins or triplets or whatever, each one of you are still unique. Because you are in separate bodies and you have separate consciousness. Now, you might be able to communicate better between each other without speaking better than most other humans who doesn't have a developed psychic ability. But individually, we are all unique, and God has blessed us all with gifts, purposes, talents, and passions. Now, it is our job to find out what it is. So I had a conversation last week with a friend of mine, and we were talking about talent and passion, and they're not necessarily the same. They're not the same. They can be, but they're not necessarily. There are plenty of talented people who are not passionate, who's not passionate enough to move to act. They're not passionate enough to act. So they have the talent, which means they're just capable. They have the talent, they're capable of doing it, but if they lack the passion, then it may never come to fruition, it may never get fully executed. But the conversation also discussed you don't need passion to utilize talent. There are plenty of people who have talent, utilize them, and may not be passionate about it, and are very successful because they're focused. There's still power in us. Passion just makes it easier because that energy drives, it pulls. It's almost like we're along for the ride. Certainly the body is just along for the ride. So, but passion, like everything else, not like everything else, but everything else that affects man, is a double-edged sword. So, passion can be good, and it can also be used for not so good. Okay? There are people who are passionate about things that are not necessarily healthy for them. We'll just leave it at that. So you can be talented, you can be passionate, you can be both, and your talent doesn't have to doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with your passion, nor does your passion necessarily have to have anything to do with your talent. But like I said, if the two are intertwined, that just makes life a whole lot easier. And it depends on what your journey is. So that's another thing about getting to know yourself. Understand we are all on different journeys. And whether you want to use your life, turn it from chicken shit to chicken salad, is completely up to you. No matter what adversities you face, they are overcomable. And I know that is not a word. You can overcome any adversity. Everything begins with the mind. You can snap out of something easily when you decide to let it go. And a lot of our behavior, as we spoke on last week, it stems from fear. The fear of loss is the biggest motivator for most people. And even change is perceived as loss. Because change is a loss of the status quo. If something changes, it's not the same. Okay? So most of us have a fear of loss. We're afraid that we are going to lose something. But let me tell you, I had seen something a long time ago, and it stuck with me. And I love when things stick with me because now I know that I'm supposed to ponder on that. But a long time ago, I saw something. It said it was G-O-D, G.O.D. as though it was an, abbreviation or an acronym. And it stood for generating, operating, and destroying. And when I first saw it, of course, it was a long time ago, so my whole thought process was much different. The word destroying just blew me away, and I just kind of disregarded it because I wasn't ready to absorb that information. I wasn't ready to see God as this destructive force. And God isn't a destructive force. God is all about change, improvement, expression, making it better, baby. So there is the generating, which is creating. Operating is maintaining. And the destruction is not destruction. It's the life cycle is over. So you can call it whatever you want to. Destruction, you can call it death. I personally prefer recycling because that's what we do with the energies. They decay, and then those energies, remember, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It gets recycled. I was listening to an audio lesson, and the guy said that black holes are the garbage can in the universe. And I immediately disagreed. Internally, of course, because I was just listening. But I immediately disagreed because I said, no, if anything, it would be the recycle bin. Because nothing is, well, I guess if you think about discarding the old, but yeah, I prefer the recycle bin. It just sounds better. But anyway, but I get what he was saying. So that's what happened. So, and in terms of energy, that's what God does. It generates, it operates, it destroys, or recycles. And now that I'm in a different place, I don't think of it in negative terms anymore. I understand that it's all cyclical. Cycles. We have cycles. There are cycles in everything. What is that? Which law is that? Universal law of, well, it's not really cycles. But on the rhythm, yes, there are cycles. Universal law number 5, I think, the law of rhythm. Yes, cycles. Everything has a cycle. It has a pattern to it, a season. And nature boasts, is boastful evidence of God in action. Just look at 1 year, 1 calendar year. Look at the trees. A tree goes from, if you live in, a climate that has different seasons, a tree goes from being naked in the winter to in full bloom come summertime. That's a cycle. That's a pattern. Apples on the tree with the seeds in them. The seeds find their way back into the ground, and those little seeds, going back to the hologram, those little seeds contain a full tree in it. Can you see that? For those who say, oh, I can't see God, so I don't believe He exists. Can you see that tree and that seed? Because it exists. Otherwise, why would you plant it? Why would you plant any seeds? Can you see the carrot in those seeds that you plant? Can you see the lettuce? Can you see the whatever it is, peas, tomatoes, potatoes? In whatever seeds you plant, do you see the full potential of that seed? That's who we are. That's what we are. We are the seed of God. Now, how that seed unfolds is what we call free will. There's no devil making you do it. There may be you having no control over your energy and someone is ciphering your energy, but that ain't the devil, honey. That's you not taking responsibility for your own energy, your own being, your own essence. And stop playing the victim. It only makes us weak, and it's not productive. It's not productive. But like I said, don't take my word. Do your own research. Okay. So, who is I? I is the seed of God. I am the potential. You are the potential of the best of what God has to offer. This is what is meant by get out of your own way. We limit ourselves. So stop speaking negatively. Yes, easier said than done. But be mindful. Find something to focus on 1 day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time. Get to know you and fall in love with you. And as you fall in love with you, you also falling in love with God. And you will see more beauty and more truth and more love frequency. It exists. It exists right where we are. If we can't see it, if we don't feel it, it's because we have our own personal filters up and we don't allow it in or out. It's just contained, not really serving a purpose. Like I said, the potential of the seed, everything exists within the seed. How that seed grows, how that seed unfolds. Does it get enough nourishment? Now remember, through God, all things are possible. So there's no such thing as limitation or lack. So we shouldn't entertain, is there enough nourishment? There's always enough nourishment. You know, there's stories, there's so many examples of God's incredible power. Like I said, and we call things miracles just because we fail to understand the power that we possess that is from God. But, you know, I can't recall, but it was a ship and a captain and a crew, and they were, I want to say, in the Arctic somewhere, and their boat ran into an iceberg or whatever. Their ship ran into an iceberg, and it was, you know, crushed, so to speak, or whatever. And there was no way, and this happened a while ago. It's a true story. This happened a while ago, like, I don't know, 100 years ago, maybe, whatever. But so they were stuck where they were up there, and no way of communicating. But they managed to survive. I don't know the length of time. I know it was greater than 3 days, much greater than 3 days. And when they were found, they were asked, "How did you manage to survive?" Because for a long time they were in the ocean. And the ocean is, you know, comprised of salt water. And they didn't have any, survival things like water, food, anything like that. Now, you can go a long time without food. Provisions, that's what the word I was looking for. They didn't have any kind of provisions, you know, health provisions, nutrition provisions. And the captain told whoever it was that rescued them that, you know, he had his men envision that the water was fresh and good for them and clean and healthy. And that's what they focused on. Now, of course, you know, some people are like, oh, that's BS. And of course, and they would say that. You know, they would say that because that's their perspective. But anybody who has experienced, and I'm doing the air quotes, miracles in their life, know that nothing is impossible. Everything is a potential outcome. The possibility exists for any particular outcome. That's what quantum physics is all about. Quantum realities. So no matter what decision you choose, there's a reality that will be based off of that decision, that choice, that action, whatever expression that we do. And that's what happens when we say, I this, I that, I am this, I am that, I like this, I don't like that. I don't want to say don't like, because I like and I don't like is the same. It's like the absolute value in math. I've mentioned that before. But the way we use the word I need us to be cognizant of that, because what we're doing is we are aligning energies. We are aligning energies. And when you, and like some people who are really focused, or, you know, yeah, some people are really focused, they can manifest things a lot easier. They may not be aware of it. They may be aware of it. But when you say I, you are calling those energies together and says, I will attend your play. That is my intention. And for the most part, I will do it. I would love to do this, that, or the third. I am honored that you chose me. We have to be mindful of our words. Our words can create paradise or a prison for us. It was something that is going to haunt me because I was supposed to say it and it's escaping me now. And it has to do with I. But going back to my last statement, the way we utilize the word I can either produce our own paradise or our own prison. That's why we have to be mindful of language. Oh, there's another concept that escaped me. And I am going to beat myself up because I'll think of it when we're gone. I mean, when this broadcast is over. Oh, my goodness. It's killing me, too. See, don't use language like that. Great example. It is not killing me, and I am not dying. Now, I do want to know what I cannot recall or what I'm having difficulty recalling. But, yeah. So, let's see. Okay. It just, this is really bothering me. It had something to do with quantum realities. Everything is possible. I know I just need to move on, but I can't. But I refuse to move on. Okay, I'm gonna have to give up for now. Okay, so let's we got a couple of minutes left. Let's see what we have here. Hello.
Hi. Thank you so much
Hi.
for taking my call.
Yes. And what is your name?
Katie?
Hello, Katie. How are you?
Good, thank you. And yourself?
I'm very well. Do you have a question, Katie, or a comment?
A question, please. There's this woman I'd like to work with, and I'm not sure which project of mine we should start on together. If it's the one I've sent her already that she'd reviewed, or one that I'm finishing up and wanna and like a second option that I'd send her. I'm sorry if that comes in.
Okay, so the question is,
if I should let her start working on the first project that I've given her, or if, we should start working on the second one, like the one another one that she hasn't reviewed yet, but she wants to review. Yeah.
Well, I think there's a lot of variables. That's a difficult question for me to answer because there's so many factors involved that are unknown to me, so I wouldn't be able to probably help with the decision making. However, I think that you should probably give it a lot of thought in terms of what is priority and productive. What will benefit, what will be most beneficial.
One requires a smaller budget. That's why I was thinking perhaps the second one. The second one would require less money to make. Maybe that.
Well, you can always start out with the smaller project and then build momentum, and then it'll make maybe the larger project a little bit easier, and then you'll have more experience together. So that could be an option as well.
Ah, okay. And you see her and I working well together?
Well, I'm not an energy person. Yes, you're looking for an energy person. Yeah, I don't read people's energy. I just try to help people understand their own personal energy and how powerful their energy is. But there are the Alchemy Sisters. Look up the Alchemy Sisters. They have a show, and they do a lot with energy work.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Katie, I have run out of time, but thank you so much for calling in. I really do appreciate your participation. Okay, so friends and family of One for All is Love, we are down to the last 30 seconds. Let's say a quick prayer or a moment of silence for our friends who are in need of healing, for their own need to be whole, healthy, and complete from the top of their heads to the bottom of their feet. May God bless them and revive them and fill them with health and good energy. So be it, and so it is. Amen. Have a great week, guys. Bye-bye.